I never anticipated that a call from my grandmother would unleash such a flood of emotions and memories. My name is Laura, and at 29, I had achieved everything I dreamed of. A top position at Morgan & Reed Investments, a chic apartment in the heart of Boston, and most importantly, the complete independence I'd always craved from my so-called family. "Sweetheart," my grandmother's comforting voice came through the phone. "I wanted to tell you that your parents and Jenny have moved into their new home." There was a brief pause and I could sense her hesitation. "They're planning a housewarming in 3 weeks." I couldn't help but chuckle. "Are you and Grandpa going?" "No, darling, we're not up for all that noise," she replied with a sigh, probably settling into her favorite armchair, knitting away. "Your grandfather's arthritis is flaring up again." "Take care of yourselves," I said sincerely, as my grandparents were the only ones who truly mattered to me. "I'll visit soon." "That would be wonderful, dear. We miss you." Another pause. "Laura, I know things are complicated, but maybe—" "Grandma," I interrupted softly, "we both know they won't invite me, and that's okay." Once we hung up, I walked over to the large windows of my apartment, taking in the sparkling skyline. My reflection stared back at me, a confident woman in a tailored suit, far removed from the neglected child I used to be. The irony of it wasn't lost on me. My parents' new house was probably modest in comparison to my luxurious apartment, but they would never know. I'd gone to great lengths to keep my success under wraps, avoiding social media for years. My phone buzzed again. It was Ashley, my college best friend. "Don't you even think about canceling your birthday party tomorrow?" she said, diving right in. "I've already ordered the cake and convinced half the office to come." I laughed. In my own apartment, that would be quite the accomplishment. "Come on, Laura, you deserve to celebrate. You're crushing that life, and 30 is just around the corner. Let's show off a bit. Post some photos online. Let the world know that Laura Mitchell is living her best life." I hesitated. For years, I kept my life private, distancing myself from the past. But maybe Ashley was right. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. "All right," I agreed, but nothing too over the top. "Too late," she practically sang. "I've already hired a photographer." The photographer Ashley hired was worth every cent. The photos made my apartment look like something from an upscale magazine. Sleek marble countertops, twinkling city lights, and everyone looking chic and happy. After years of social media silence, I finally shared the pictures. "Look at you," Ashley exclaimed, scrolling through the comments. "Your post is blowing up." I glanced at my phone. Sure enough, likes and comments were pouring in. Old classmates, colleagues, and even distant relatives were all in awe of my apparent success. It felt surreal, like I had finally shed the mask I'd worn for so long. The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Laura, it's Mom. I got your number from your grandmother." My stomach tightened. Sarah Mitchell's voice, too cheerful to be genuine, sent a wave of unwanted memories crashing over me. "I saw your photos online. Your apartment is impressive. We had no idea you were doing so well." "Of course you didn't," I thought bitterly. "You never bothered to ask." "We're having that housewarming party next weekend," she continued. "We'd love for you to come. Everyone would be thrilled to see you." I bet they would, now that I'm successful, I thought, but didn't say. "I'll think about it," I replied coolly before hanging up. I sank into my couch, staring out at the city below. Memories I had long buried started flooding back. Memories of being unwanted, of never fitting in. I wasn't supposed to be born. My mother was just 22, fresh out of college when she found out she was pregnant. She and Dad had big plans to travel, build careers, enjoy their youth. A baby wasn't part of that picture. "Mrs. Mitchell," I could almost hear the doctor's voice from the story Grandma once told me. "An abortion could affect your ability to have children in the future. So they kept me, not out of love, but out of fear of regret. From the moment I was born, they passed me off to my grandparents. I spent weekends with them, then entire weeks at a time. My earliest memories were of their cozy home, the scent of Grandma's cookies, the sound of Grandpa's laughter, things I never felt from my parents. They gave me the love my parents couldn't or wouldn't. That all changed when I turned 6. My grandparents finally put their foot down. "She needs to go to school," Grandma told my parents firmly. "She needs stability, her own home. You can't keep passing her around like this." "But she's happy here," Mom protested. "She's met her parents." Grandpa's voice was unusually stern. "It's time you step up and take responsibility." By then, my parents had settled into their careers and bought a house. They reluctantly agreed to take me back, but I soon learned they had other plans. They wanted another child, this time planned. When I was 7, Mom announced her pregnancy. I remember her glowing face, Dad's proud smile, the nursery they decorated months in advance, things I never got. Jenny was born on a bright spring morning. The difference in how they treated her compared to me was immediate. While I ate breakfast alone before school, Mom fed Jenny with airplane noises. When I brought home straight A's, Dad barely glanced at my report card before turning back to helping Jenny with her finger painting. "Mom, I got the lead role in the school play," I excitedly told her one evening. "That's nice, honey," she replied absent-mindedly, not even looking up from her phone as she recorded Jenny's first steps. After that, I stopped sharing my achievements. Instead, I'd ride my bike to my grandparents' house, where I knew I mattered. "Show me that report card again," Grandpa would say with pride. "My brilliant girl." They never forgot my birthday, my school events. When I won the science fair in 5th grade, they were the only ones there. My parents had taken Jenny to her dance recital instead. "We'll have cake when we get back," Mom had promised that morning. But they didn't return until late, and Jenny was too tired to celebrate. My birthday went uncelebrated. It was just the beginning of a pattern, missing everything important in my life, while celebrating every milestone of Jenny's. I found comfort in my studies and the unconditional love of my grandparents. Every weekend, I'd escape to their house, where Grandma listened to my stories and Grandpa helped with my homework. "You're going to do great things, Laura," Grandma would say, slipping me a new book or a little trinket. Just me. Wait and watch. But in my own house, I was practically non-existent, unless Jenny needed something. Then I became the makeshift babysitter, the tutor, the obliging older sister who could take her to her friends' houses. Jenny's attitude only worsened with age. By the time she turned 9, she had perfected the art of manipulation, effortlessly bending our parents to her will. "You're just the mistake they ended up with," she'd mock me. "No one wants you here." I often let her jabs slide, but one day, at 17, she crossed the line. I was buried in my AP study materials when she stormed into my room. "Move your stuff. I need your desk for my art project," she ordered. "I'm studying, Jenny. Use your own desk." "No, I want this one. Mom and Dad said I can have anything in this house." "That's not true, and I'm busy." She started throwing my textbooks on the floor. "You're so selfish. You're just jealous because Mom and Dad love me more." Something inside me broke. Years of simmering frustration surged to the surface. I snatched her phone from her hand. "Give it back," she screeched. "No. You're grounded. Go to your room and think about how you treat people," I said, my voice steady. She stormed off, threatening to tell our parents. I wasn't worried. She needed to learn the consequences of her actions. When Mom and Dad returned home, Jenny was already putting on her act. Tears flowed as she weaved her version of events. "She hit me," Jenny sobbed, "and she took my phone and locked me in my room." "I didn't hit her," I said, keeping calm. "I took her phone because she was disrespecting me and messing up my study materials." Mom's face turned crimson. "How dare you touch your sister? Give me your phone," Dad barked. "You're grounded for a month, no outings except for school." "I have the class trip this weekend." "Cancelled," Mom snapped. "Maybe this will teach you to be kinder to your sister." For the next month, they acted as though I wasn't there. They'd pass me in the hall without a glance. At meals, they spoke around me as if I were invisible. Jenny grinned the entire time, knowing she'd won. That was when I realized the painful truth. These weren't my family members. They were just people with the same blood running through their veins. When graduation day arrived, I wasn't shocked to see only my grandparents in the crowd. Mom had told them I wasn't deserving of their attention. My valedictorian speech earned a standing ovation, but the empty seats in the family section said it all. "We're so proud of you, sweetheart," Grandma said, embracing me warmly. "Where are your parents?" asked Mrs. Thompson, my favorite teacher. I simply shrugged. Their absence had become something I was used to. The day after graduation, Mom and Dad called me into the living room. From the look on their faces, I knew this conversation wouldn't be a pleasant one. "You're 18 now," Dad said, his tone all business. "It's time for you to move out." Mom bluntly added, "You need to leave." I discreetly hit record on my phone, tucking it just under my leg on the couch. Something told me I should keep a record of this. What about college? I asked, although I already knew the answer. I just needed it on tape. They laughed, a cold, bitter sound that rang in the air. We're not paying for your education, Dad said. That money is for Jenny. Mom finally let her mask slip, running her fingers through her hair with a visible sigh of relief. We don't have to be responsible for you anymore. Let's face it, Dad continued, his words cutting deep. We never wanted you. Your mom couldn't get an abortion because of health risks, so we were stuck with you. You were never part of this family, Mom added, casually glancing at her nails like she was discussing the weather. Not really, and now it's time for you to go. I sat there, letting my phone capture every word, every cruel laugh, every raw truth they'd never dared to say so openly. My hands remained steady, betraying nothing. I'll leave tomorrow, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. Their relief was palpable. It was as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Good, Dad said. No drama. At least you're making this easy. From upstairs, Jenny's voice echoed down the hallway, brimming with excitement. I'm going to turn her room into a gaming paradise. A giant TV, a new console, maybe even a streaming setup. It's going to be awesome. I packed that night, listening to Jenny's plans through the wall. 18 years of life, packed into 2 suitcases and a backpack. The next morning, I took a taxi to my grandparents' house. When I shared everything with them, showing them the recording, Grandma broke down in tears, her hands trembling as she held mine. Those aren't the people we raised, Grandpa said, his voice breaking. Years of disappointment reflected in his eyes. I also showed them something else, my acceptance letter to Harrison Business School's investment program. On a full scholarship, including housing. My hands shook slightly as I handed them the envelope. But this time, I held it with pride. They wanted me so badly, they're even paying for my dorm, I explained, allowing a small smile to spread across my face. My grades and recommendations had impressed the school. The dean personally called to offer me the scholarship. Grandma pulled me into a tight embrace, her familiar lavender scent enveloping me like a blanket of comfort. We're so proud of you, sweetheart, so very proud. Please don't tell them, I asked, pulling back to meet their eyes. They don't deserve to know. They don't, Grandpa agreed, his hand resting gently on my shoulder. Your success will be yours alone. That night in my old childhood room at my grandparents' house, I finally allowed myself to break down. That fall, I left for Harrison Business School with 2 suitcases and a fire in my heart. My new life began in a small dorm room overlooking the campus quad, but it already felt more like home than my parents' house ever had. I immersed myself in my studies, surprising even myself with how naturally I excelled in investment analysis. The numbers spoke clearly to me, offering a sense of structure and control I hadn't found in the chaos of my past. During my years at school, Mitchell, the Thompson portfolio numbers are impressive, my boss said during my first year evaluation. Keep this up and you'll go far. We haven't seen such detailed analysis from a junior analyst in years. He was right. Each year brought new challenges and corresponding promotions and raises. I moved from a small studio to a 1-bedroom apartment and then to a 2-bedroom place in a better part of town. Each move felt like a fresh start, distancing me from my past. By the time I was 28, I was leading my own team, managing high-profile client portfolios. My colleagues joked that I was obsessed with investments, but in reality, work filled the gap where family should have been. Every achievement was a way of proving my worth, every promotion a reminder that I had value. When I finally bought my luxury apartment downtown, I stood alone in the empty space, watching the sunset cast a golden glow over the city through the massive windows. 5 years of 60-hour weeks, disciplined saving, and shrewd investments had paid off. The marble countertops, the hardwood floors, the stunning view. I built this life on my own, with no help from the people who should have supported me. Now, as I read my mother's text about the housewarming, a plan took shape in my mind. After 11 years of silence, they wanted to see me. Fine. I let them see what they threw away. The recording from the day I left was still on my phone, preserved through every upgrade, waiting for the right moment. I quickly typed back, I'll be there. My mom's reply was immediate. Wonderful. We can't wait to see you, sweetheart. I took a day off work and drove to their new house. It was a modest 2-story in a middle-class neighborhood. Charming, but nothing compared to my downtown apartment. When I arrived, several cars were already parked outside, and I could hear laughter from within. I hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath, grabbed the housewarming gift, an expensive bottle of wine they could never afford, and walked up the path. Aunt Marie spotted me first. "Laura, it's been so long." She enveloped me in a hug heavy with perfume. "Where have you been hiding?" Other family members quickly gathered around, showering me with enthusiastic greetings and questions. "How's the big city? We saw your apartment online. Why don't you visit anymore? You look so successful." I smiled politely, offering vague responses. Let them wonder. From the corner of my eye, I could see my cousins whispering, comparing my designer outfit to the more modest clothes of the others. Then my parents appeared at the door. Mom had more gray in her hair than I remembered, and Dad had gained weight. Behind them stood Jenny, her face expressionless. Time had changed us all. "Laura," Mom called out, rushing toward me with open arms, her voice sugary sweet. "My baby girl." Dad joined the embrace. "We've missed you so much. We're so proud of everything you've done." Their act was flawless. If I hadn't lived through it, I might have believed it myself, how Mom gripped my shoulders and Dad's voice quivered with emotion. They had years to perfect this performance. The party moved inside. Wine flowed, food was passed around, and relatives caught up on lost time. I noticed how my parents kept touching my arm, laughing excessively at my jokes, making sure everyone saw how much they adored their long-lost daughter. The cramped living room was full of family, each one stealing glances at me between bites of cheese and crackers. During dinner, Uncle Robert stood, glass of wine in hand, his face flushed from drinking. A toast to Sarah and David on their lovely new home. Cheers erupted around the table, and to Laura he added, his tone changing, eyes narrowing. "I got something to say to you, young lady." The room fell silent. Forks stopped mid-air. A glass clinked nervously against a plate. "How could you abandon your family like this?" Uncle Robert continued. "You've gotten rich and successful while ignoring your poor parents. They've been heartbroken, wondering what they did wrong, crying over their ungrateful daughter." I felt my stomach twist as I watched my parents' faces, perfectly manufactured concern, fake hurt. Mom even managed to squeeze out a tear. "They're saints for forgiving you." Uncle Robert's voice rose in righteous anger. "After all they did for you, all their sacrifices, how could you treat them like this?" I glanced around the room at the disapproving faces of my relatives. My parents had spent 11 years cracking a narrative of themselves as the victims, abandoned by their daughter in pursuit of wealth. I cleared my throat. "Mom, care to tell everyone the truth?" Mom sat up straighter, her confidence radiating from her practiced performance. "Actually, yes. Living with Laura was always a challenge. She was spoiled, ungrateful for everything we did for her." She made eye contact with each relative. "She ran away after high school and never looked back. No calls, no visits. We were devastated." Relatives nodded sympathetically, sipping their wine. Jenny dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, her fake tears a performance she'd mastered as a child. "Let me share something," I said, pulling out my phone. A recording from the day I left. I was 18. Mom's face went pale, Dad's grip on his fork tightened. The room went completely silent as my teenage voice filled the space. "What about college then?" My parents' cruel laughter echoed. "We're not paying for your education. That money is for Jenny's future." Dad's cold voice followed. "We never wanted you. Your mom couldn't get an abortion because of medical risks, so we were stuck with you. You were never part of this family." The recording continued, each word landing like a blow. Aunt Marie covered her mouth, Cousin Rachel's eyes filled with tears. Uncle Robert's face darkened with every word. I stopped the recording. The silence was thick, only broken by the ticking of the wall clock. "This is why I left. Ask Grandma and Grandpa. They took me in that day. They were there when you kicked me out." I stood my chair scraping loudly. "You only invited me today because you saw my success online. Before that, 11 years of silence. No calls, no birthday cards. Nothing." Uncle Robert's face drained of color. His earlier righteous indignation shifted to shame. "Sarah, David, how could you?" Guests began to stand up, chairs scraping against the floor. Aunt Marie couldn't even look at my parents. "You monsters," she whispered, grabbing her purse with trembling hands. "I'm so sorry, Laura," Uncle Robert said, heading for the door. "I didn't know. I should have asked." Others followed, murmuring about lies and shameful behavior. The house quickly emptied, the door opening and closing like punctuation marks. My parents and Jenny remained, their faces twisted with rage. The facade they'd built crumbled before them. "You've ruined everything," Mom screamed, mascara running. "How dare you? We took you in," Dad shouted, as though he'd forgotten the recording we just heard. "You wanted me here," I said calmly, smoothing my dress. "I just played your game. The only difference is I brought receipts." I walked out for the last time, the sound of Jenny's sobs echoing behind me. Through my grandmother, I later learned that most of the relatives had cut ties with my parents. The truth had cost them more than just their reputation. Now I'm surrounded by friends who chose me, colleagues who respect me, and the peace that comes from living on my own terms. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply thriving. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Stay stunned.